Hi guys, Echo is back. It's so good to be back. I know it's been a few months, but it doesn't mean that I didn't have any downloads in my heart. God actually speaks to me louder than he did before, and it's so cool and amazing. I'm writing everything down. By the way, you can read some of those like a revelation I had in my heart from God in my Instagram page, which is EKAIEKA, and on my bio you will be able to see the link and read if you would like to. But anyways, this is not what I want to talk today about. I actually really wanted to talk about one particular subject, which is God like speak so loud into my heart for like last couple of weeks, and this is the reason why I was just like, you know what, I have to make a video. I was reading Mark, and particularly chapter 15, where actually in Hallmark you can see how Pharisees was trying to send Jesus to Pilate so he can be crucified, so he can be, charged with whatever they thought he was wrong with, right? And Pilate having this conversation with Jesus, and he sees that this man have done nothing wrong, and he's trying to find the ways of how to save him, basically. And at that time, there was like a holiday where Pilate once a year was able to release one of the prisoners, and so he decided to do that. He decided to try to save Jesus by doing that. So he was standing in front of the crowd, and here's a Pilate, Jesus, and Barabbas, one of the worst criminals out there, and he was killing people, he was murderer, he was stealing, he was really bad guy. And Pilate was like, hey, who you guys want to release? I have Jesus, guy who we don't really even know what he have done wrong, or Barabbas. And here in Mark chapter 15, starting from verse 9, it says here, do you want me to release to you the king of the Jews? Asked Pilate, knowing it was out of the self-interest that the chief priest had handed Jesus over to them. But the chief priest stirred up the crowd to have Pilate release Barabbas instead. What shall I do then with the one you call the king of Jews? Pilate asked them. Crucify him, they shouted out. So it's not only the crazy thing here that we see that obviously they decided to just crucify him, but I'm telling you, this is a reason why you and I and anybody who believe in our God shall not conform with patterns of this world. Because right here it says, Pharisees, but the chief priests stirred up the crowd to have Pilate release Barabbas instead. They literally stirred out the crowd by starting shout, crucify him, and not even one alive soul from that crowd said, wait a second, what does this Jesus guy have done? Like, what is he guilty of? Like, can somebody tell me what's going on here? Not even one person. They just heard something somebody said somewhere out there in the back, and they start shouting out, and just like that's how they just sent Jesus to death. This is a reason we don't have to conform with the patterns of the world, because you will hear somebody out there on NBC or your neighbor or somebody on the street said something, and you just gonna do whatever the society tells you, whatever society gonna do, you're gonna do the same thing. If everybody jumping out from the rooftop, are you gonna do the same thing? Absolutely not. This is a reason why in Romans 12 verse 2 says, do not conform to the patterns of this world, but to be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, my friends. So how will be able to do and understand what is the real truth and where is the truth if we will not going to transform our mind and our thinking daily in His Word? And the second very important thing I wanted to tell you and notice that I'll share with you my experience. For last year, I visited few churches here and there while still going to my church. And hey, church are it's gathering of the peoples. So absolutely, there's not going to be any perfect churches, but I'm telling you, these days churches can and very much so look like the world. So that's why I'm like so cautious, and when I'm stepping into the church, and if you like everything what you hear is conversation about everything but God, and you know, here and there we will hear something about God, but if everything look like world and feel like world, then what are we doing that? This is the reason God speaks, like spoken to my heart, and he's like, be careful, do not conform by the way of even people at the church, because it can be very much so very worldly inside of the building of where like how like Jesus trying to prepare his bride, you know. And it's so important. This is the reason why I listen when pastor preaches, and I was just like, okay, I listen, I write it down. Sometimes I even record on my phone going back home, listening, check facting it with a Bible. And that's how we need to live, because it can be so easy to be trapped in the patterns of the world, patterns of the people at the church who's like going to church just to go there, have fun, which is okay, right? We live and we want to have fun, but I personally want to go to church to be hungry for his word, to be transformed, to receive a little bit of like something I haven't noticed before in a Bible, or learn, you know, and be transformed. That should be our main reason to go there, but not just to have fun conversation about everything but not God. So, and it's not only talking, I'm not only talking about conversation in churches, but like structure and everything. Like, let's pay attention and bring into church not world, but bring let's be a representative of Christ, and let's bring the truth everywhere we go. We don't want to be like that crowd here and shout out with everybody, crucify him, only because we didn't do our due diligence and like spend time with God and just like learn what's the truth, question stuff, ask why is it like that, ask, like fact check it with Bible, you know. So that's what's heavy in my heart lately, just to make sure we should not only conform by the ways of the world, but also unfortunately we have to be careful and make sure we're not conformed by the ways of the people at the church. Yeah, that's what I had in my heart. And yes, even I just forgot to say that our churches, unfortunately right now, it's not the same as in the days of the disciples, who like went and spread word of God and good news to everybody, and they start building the churches, and then put some people out there, but they would move themselves to another area, open up another churches. Even in those days, disciples would write the letters to the churches, and they would say, hey, be careful with those people, be careful with those kind of people, be careful not doing this and doing that. And there was correction from the disciples to the existing churches to make sure that they would not be conformed by the patterns of the people around there, or government around them, or anybody, but only they would operate in a truth of God. And I think we need to check ourselves if we are slowly but surely leaning towards God, or we surely but slowly being rooted in our minds have been renewed every single day, and we conformed by the ways of God, you know. That's all I wanted to say. It was so good making this video, and I'll see you guys next time. Love you all.